Zero pressure. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Inchstones podcast. We are focusing on the dads and fathers and anyone that is of the male gender that revolves in this orbit of autism and special needs. And I'm thrilled today to have Zack Ponder on. He is the host of a podcast called Unspecial. Before we pressed record, I said, what's one thing that you want to get across? And he said, I'm not a parent of a special needs child, but I'm a washed up special ed teacher. And you know what? I want you to turn that around because there's no such thing as a washed up special ed teacher. I think that any one of you that jumps into a career or profession like that at any point in your life was sprinkled with some sort of angel dust before you landed on here on earth. And it is not lost on me that you have spent time with students in profound disability populations, unlike most typical Americans. And so I'm thrilled to have you here and to share more about your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't plan on retiring from teaching. It was just we moved up to North Idaho. I taught there for a year. We moved from Southern California, so my pay got cut in half.
Yeah.
And I tried like side hustle stuff, but then it just took me away from the family. And I was like, I had to make that decision to move on to provide for the family. But that was 5 years ago. And I just knew I didn't want to stop because I just enjoy special needs. I know it sounds interesting to people to say that, and especially being a guy. I don't know. And I particularly enjoyed the most, hands down, the profound.
Mm-hmm. There is, listen, I am a broken record with this on my podcast. I didn't wake up one day as a new mom and think I wanted 2 children with profound autism. Like that, you realize as you become a mom of children with profound disabilities, how much we've been conditioned to not expect anything like that to ever happen. And it's one of the things I like to expose and talk with as openly as I can and like use any megaphone to do so is that why have we been so conditioned in this country as women and mothers and parents to expect a certain trajectory and a certain white picket fence life when this population and the numbers, rising, it's there. It's there. And I think that it illuminates the erasure side when someone like me who had a great upbringing and a great career and lived in a major city and moved to the suburbs, the fact that someone like me was not even aware of this to the extent shows how conditioned we are by the stories that are being told and what is the cacophonous nature of mainstream media and the global village.
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially, the journey I'm on as a family. My wife was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago. And so, yeah, we get in this mindset like we're owed something.
Mm-hmm.
Like owed this cushy life and, the career, you go to work, come home, blah, blah, blah. And everything is happy and healthy and wealthy. But then when you get that diagnosis, it makes you think a little differently. And it really puts you in the mindset of like, okay, you can go down 2 paths. I can be a victim and be angry and hate the world, or you can turn it into purpose and go down the other route. And it's like, as hard as this is, it's happening for me.
Yeah. I saw something that you posted recently about, I believe it was like an empty seat next to you at church and how you would give anything to have your wife there next to you. And I think that's why you and I and a number of others connect so beautifully online is that you're revealing something that most people, they don't see that when they look at the seat that's empty next to you. They're making up their own narrative as to why the seat's empty. They have no idea why the seat's empty. They're maybe not even noticing an empty seat, right? And what I try to do on Inchstones is like, you don't know what you're seeing, but let me show you what the meaning is underneath, because there's always something going on in the ground. There's all these figures. The figures are these stories we tell ourselves, and the figures are just thinking that all these other souls bopping around our world have nothing to do because like we're the star. And I'm so glad you posted that because it nestles so deeply next to what I talk about when my child is eating a cheeseburger and holding it properly. And everyone just sees a cute little 8-year-old boy. And that was years. And that probably won't happen again. It might not happen again tonight, but it does. And so talk to me about how you've been realized that you're a translator of those experiences through your wife's diagnosis and like what you see and what that underneath is.
I mean, it really just puts everything in perspective. When when somebody you love and is close to is fighting, and you really start to see things like in the Inchstones. And even like this morning, after I dropped the kids off at camp, I have an 18-month-old. I took him to the coffee shop, and I don't get out with him, just me and him, all that often. And there was a little Grom play zone. I'm in Southern California. They call little surfer kids Groms. And so it was a little Grom play zone. And I just sat there and watched him for 20 minutes play with these wooden painted people. And he moved them from a chair to a table, to another table, to a car. And I'm like, man, this little dude has mastered being content. Yeah. And I think it's in those moments where you have to like train yourself to slow down, get out of the hustle, and really take in the little things around you that are so awesome.
They're right there. And I think it's the lens of life that you have to choose to see those. I find, and I'm sure you, in working with, profound autism and special needs populations, that there's a lot of caregivers that have the weight and the heaviness of this life completely compound on them for an ability to see through into any sort of small piece of joy, gratitude, praise for the smallest of growth wins. You've said before, I think, that caregivers become this like forgotten population, and I'm sure it resonates in your own life with being the healthy parent right now. Can you speak about that and what your beliefs are on that?
Yeah, that's something that's something I've really been experiencing a lot lately. I mean, and I can feel it in all you parents and the parents I have on my podcast, like how much weight is held on the parent to care for the child, especially if you're the only parent. It's extreme, and it's taken like a very what's the word? Specific approach to make sure that I care for myself. And this is of late, like my nervous system. So I go to a neurologically focused chiropractor, and they do insight scans and scan my nervous system. And I just got my results, and they're trash. They're terrible. I mean,
it's what you want to be like. Yeah, tell me more.
Right. He's like, it makes sense. I mean, granted, I did do the MRF 2 hours before. So maybe. But I'm sure it's still pretty bad. And so I saw it, and I was a month ago, I started to feel it in my body. Like something feels different. I'm on edge, my system is in fight or flight more, and I can feel it. And so now I've had to take like measures to slow it down, like breath work, red light, cold shower. As before, I just worked out and I powered through.
Yeah.
But now it's been 2 years, and it's starting to weigh, and I have to do these little things. So to your question, like, what do I think about that? I think a lot of times we can feel like it's selfish, but like a better you is a better mom, a better dad for your kids. And, when you think about what they're going through and the grief or the hardships that they face and the unknowns, like you want to be that person that can co-regulate with them. And they don't have to like fear you or like the vibe you bring, and I'm not perfect.
It's so true. I mean, so much. I don't know what your algorithm is. I'm really only on Instagram, like social media wise. I don't know what yours shows you, but I do feel like is starting to become more awareness about regulation, your own nervous system, it not being this secondary activity that it has to be baked in. And I will say, I mean, I think that people, when you do start to carve out that 5 minutes in the morning or 10 minutes to do something that, based on what your own receptivity is to it, has helped your nervous system, it really does only serve your child best. Like, I really do think, I mean, they talk about mom saying it's my heart walking outside my body and my children. I believe that to be true. Like their pulse is because I can if I'm good, they're better. If I'm not good, they're worse off. And I hate to put that kind of pressure, but it actually is like the greatest balm for centering the mom as the heart and soul of co-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And it never fails to prove itself when I do.
And it's so hard sometimes. I mean, like, again, this morning, my 9-year-old, they're going to camp. Today's the first day. They don't know what to expect, even though it's with the same kids they went to the co-op with all year. Everything's the same, except for they don't know what's going to happen. So he asked me 1,000 questions. And halfway through, I started to get frustrated. And I was just like, but a minute into it, I realized like, okay, calm down. He's nervous. He doesn't know what to expect. Emotions are high. So then I just like, all right, I'm just going to answer all his questions.
I'm just going to keep answering them.
Just anything else? Anything else? I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there, but what's next?
Right.
And it's like that's huge. That was huge.
Well, it ends up becoming in my mind sometimes during maybe more of a meltdown or dysregulation point with my son, he's becoming more of the harder. He's I always say, like, what is autism? What is an 8-year-old little boy just having a dysregulated moment, right? Because it's so different than what my daughter presented as at the same age. And when I have to dig deep in those moments and get him off the floor and make sure that he's not going to claw at me or himself, I have this vision of me like doing the like bicep curls or like doing the plank or like in a yoga pose where I'm at 90 seconds and I'm at, fatigue. And I think of it as that, like in my mind, I visualize myself going, hold, like let the shake happen. Yeah. That's where the growth edge is. And it's the only, and I don't say that it pulls me away from my son, but it gives me this like visual that I think allows me to get through it at the best of my ability to then serve him.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to think about that. Yeah.
Like think about yourself doing the hardest thing physically or the cold plunge or the whatever it is and go, I can do anything for 30 seconds. I can do anything for 90 seconds. We're going to get him through this first and foremost because I know that I can do this for that amount of time. Zack, talk to me about the greatest lessons that you learned as a special education professional and how that has translated into being a parent of typical children. I think a lot of supporters of my work and of my family have a hard time understanding what it really is like in the realities. And you might be one of the only people that can translate that, not having a child with a diagnosis like profound autism. Could you speak to that at all?
I think hands down, the biggest and most powerful lessons or takeaways, insights, whatever I took from being a teacher for 7 years was how amazing and capable and smart and intelligent that my students were. I mean, remind you, they were for 5 years. I mean, I only taught life skills, but particularly my first 2 years was profound autism, non-speaking, and violent. And I remember like a month into it, and I didn't do any of the teacher training because the districts were so desperate for teachers. So they let me just do my internship as a teacher the first year, which meant I was the teacher. Like I didn't have the first day I was supposed to be getting observed, and my observer walked in, and she was like, I don't know, mid-80s.
Wow.
Sweet old lady. But right when she walked in, one of my students threw a shoe and it hit her in the head. And she walked out and she's like, I'm not going to observe you. Can we just meet in the faculty lounge? You could tell me what happened. So that was how my instruction went. So it was a lot of learning on the fly.
There's a lot of bigger lessons in that because it's almost like, I mean, that can become a model. I mean, I'm just thinking like, that's basically the world. That's someone you are like me, right? I'm leading this crew that I have no training on. Someone from outside of the world comes in to just see, support, notice things, gets hit, whether that's emotionally, physically, and then leaves and go, let's talk about this later. And you're like, I'm still in combat mode. Like,
Right.
that's such a perfect example. Like, this is someone who genuinely, she's an educator too. Like these are parents too that want to understand. But the second it becomes difficult, they're like, I'm out. Thank you so much for proving to me that I can't handle this.
Yeah. And that was kind of my whole experience in 7 years in public school education, was like nobody actually understood what these parents go through, what the classroom goes through. Even when I would get observed by principals and assistant principals for my lessons where they would do my write-ups and reviews of how I was doing as a teacher, they would come in for 20 minutes, no idea what's going on. They're like, oh, it's all in order. You're doing great. Kids are getting on the bus. Have a great day. But after like a month in, I could really just see in my students like that their wheels are always turning in their heads. Obviously, outwardly, it's different and not the social norms, but I can see how smart they were. And I just started doing a bunch of research, and I learned about apraxia and presuming competence. And I'm like, oh, thank you, God. I already saw that, and it's already happening.
Right.
And, from that, I really started to lean into that and run with it. Like, I kind of just planned.
Do you find that when you as an educator intook that presumption of competence and understanding the, whole body apraxia, do you feel like you as an educator in those really tough moments, it gave you a sense of humility to the humanity?
Oh, 100%.
Which ended up probably becoming a connective point to these kids too.
Yeah, like full meltdown, computers flying. And I would always teach my staff, like, guys, they can't control their body. They don't want to do this. And it proved my point after one of my students' meltdowns. He threw the keyboard, pieces went everywhere, computers were flying. And then afterwards, he put himself in the calm room, crying, took it all in. He came up to me and he had like very few words, but he said, sorry. And I was like, guys, he doesn't want to do this, but he can't control his body. So in these moments, rather than escalate with them back to the co-regulation, it was really like, we have to stay calm. They're feeding off of our vibe, and it will go away faster if we just chill out.
What do you think fathers, men that have children with profound autism or are teachers, what do you think that you offer that's different than that of a female or woman? I can speak ad nauseum about my experience. I always joke like with my partner, I'm never going to be a man. You have to tell me verbatim like what the experience is. What does your primal innate experience as a man, how does that translate differently for this experience for you and how you share it with the world?
Yeah, I think as particularly with males, like the male students, there's just something, and I can relate it to like my son. There's just something with a father-son bond that it can't be replaced. And I think the word that comes to my head is strength, even though, I know moms are incredibly strong, but I think it's different as the dad. It's a different strength where the son or the male student can be bonded to that. And another crazy story from the classroom, I had this one student, he was 6'4", like 240, big dude. He had 2 to 3 on 1 at times. And one day he came to school. He was non-speaker, very violent. Not all the time, but when he was, he was. And so he showed up to school, didn't want to get out of the car. He was punching the window, like starting to hurt himself. And the mom was there, and she was doing everything she could to calm him down. Wasn't working. The dad shows up, and like we're out, full staff on the curb, faculty, everybody's there. Like, what's going to happen? The dad shows up, and and I think it's a confidence thing too. Like, from the dad's side, like he can get to that level with his son. He simply got in the car, and we're like, what is he doing? This guy is crazy. And he just sat there And his son calmed down like within 2 minutes, and they drove home.
Yeah.
And it was in that, like something about I don't know how to, I'm not really articulating how to put words to it, but.
No, I mean, I see it. I see it. I've been in this population of caregivers for so long. When I am around in a group and I see the fathers living this life, living this role, there is, that protection that feels more like the sturdy trunk of a tree. Like,
Yeah.
I'm immovable. Like, I am immovable, and I am going to stand so firmly planted in this so that you know that nothing is going to happen as I'm right here with you. And I think that must feel different to a child than the warmth and sort of tending and caring that a mom gives. It has to. I mean, I can't think of anything more true in this world than the difference of a mother and father to a child.
Yeah, and it's like, I can't replace mom. Mom can't replace me. But it's definitely more challenging for a dad to get on that more emotional.
Absolutely.
I'll speak for myself. Like, I'm more like no BS. Like, I don't care about your emotions right now. Like, figure it out. But then the mom comes in, and I think that's where like the perfect balance has to come into play. Like, every child needs that tender affection, and then they also need a kick in the butt.
Well, I know that you just had him on your show or vice versa, but, Tyler Hudson is a mutual, friend. And I actually interviewed his wife, Libby, and it's going to be an episode out soon. And the episode was to focus really on her journey, and it ended up turning into a conversation about the depth and polarity of a mom and a dad in profound autism. And she was saying how like that polarity becomes sort of the defining goodness of how they can get through with their son, and how you have to accept that polarity so fully and unconditionally. And I think that's exactly what we're saying right now, is that It is neither one is stronger or better or more prevalent. It has to be both. And you have to acknowledge the polarity in order for it to work best for the child.
Yeah. That balance.
Because some moments the dad is going to take over. And I'll tell you, like, I experienced that with my Millie and Mac. I have an ability with Millie, being a woman and her as a young girl. There is just something that she trusts in me as her mom. And I've said, I am a single mom. And so I find that I am trying sometimes to look at my son and say, I know that I can't do this perfectly right now, baby, but like, I'm going to try, and we're going to muscle through this differently, to almost present to him differently, because I have to, because I know that the same things that work for his sister do not work for him. They just don't. And I like, sometimes it's the most freeing thing to just acknowledge it. Right.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
What are some things that, as you've built your platform and, the Unspecial podcast, what are some things that you have realized that are still missing from, in mainstream media, in this country, in the stories that are shared? What do you hope to bring with the platform that you've built?
Well, I mean, what's missing is dads, for sure. There's not many dads in the space, which, going back to like, it makes sense. A lot of dads, we don't want to share about our feelings or like that kind of thing. And most of them are out working, caring for the fam. And so dads are missing in the space. Also, if they like, I don't know how deep you want to get into this, but the divisiveness in the community, it's like there's so many, it's like this or that, but it's like both can be in the same space. Like, you can love your child and want to heal your child. Of course, everybody wants what's best for their kid. But then you get in there and it's like people are fighting about it. Like, you don't accept your kid.
It's a waste of energy.
It really is.
It's like, not to go. So my dad's a physics teacher. And so I grew up with like a scientific father, and, energy maneuverability theory is real. Like, we're supposed to not use as much energy on things that do not produce a outcome that's beneficial to everyone else. And I think that's exactly what you're speaking to. Like, it's such a waste of energy. Like, whatever is best for your family, go at it, boo. Like, that's awesome. I'm so thankful. I actually spoke at an event in March, and I had this sea of women, mothers, And you could tell this one woman, this autism mom, was just like, she's like, I have this specific question, like, what do you think about XYZ? And has it been beneficial to your kids and whatever? And she needed the control of what answer that I was going to give her to help her guide her. And she probably didn't like my answer. I said, if you deeply believe that that has a possibility to help your son, go do it.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Like, go do it. Like, I haven't experienced that specific thing with my kids. I'm not saying I might not pop up, but like, go do it. And again, it wasn't the answer she wanted. I think she wanted me to say, like, that's going to produce this and that's the outcome. Like, yes, I've heard of tons of families that are doing that. And like, you should do it and spend every dollar that you have on it. And I didn't give her that. And I think that that's exactly what you're speaking to, that the chaos in the conversation becomes this energy sucker. Like, just go do it. You don't need anyone else to tell you to do it. If you think it's going to work, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. Have fun with it. And if it doesn't, whatever, tell us what happened. Try something else. But no, I think mostly with the Unspecial Space is from teaching, I realized how hard a special needs family's journey is. And going through so many IEP meetings, watching so many families crying and talking to them afterwards, it was incredibly lonely. So my goal and hope for the Unspecial Space is for parents to be seen and heard, and in sharing their story and their journey, it will not only bring hope to themselves, but hope to others as they hear it. But it's super fun. And ironically, I've been wanting to start it for like six years, but it didn't happen until my wife was in the hospital, and I started it, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but hearing all the stories and seeing how you parents show up like fiercely, it really brought me hope in what I was going through. And it like inspired me. Every time I record with someone, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like,
that's literally, it's the greatest. It's literally the more you are in service to your population that you are looking to illuminate, the more you get back. I mean, it's the constant infinity symbol. It's the polarity. It's the yin and yang. Zack, before we go, I ask this of guests a lot. What is one Inchstone, a small or meaningful moment recently that has reminded you to keep hope alive in your life, but also in continuing your mission with your podcast as well?
One small Inchstone. Man, I feel like it's every day just watching my kids. I mean, just seeing them develop, and I'm fortunate to be able to homeschool them. And so to see their minds turning, and really, they inspire me to see like their resilience and everything they're going through and what's going through their mind. Like, they're just, another Southern California term, they're just ultimate frothers. Like when you froth on life, everything is just so much more fun. Like the littlest things, like a bird on the telephone pole, like it was chirping this morning and they notice. So they're watching them, but being able to really step back and like take it in, you can see there's so much beautiful stuff.
I love that. Well, we will be sure to post all of the links and where you can find Zack and the Unspecial Podcast at the episode summary after this. Zack, thank you so much for being here today on Inchstones.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, until next time, thanks everyone.